Hey, Billy Abelgard with Digital Realty here, and today we're going to be looking at the housing data for the month of June for the greater Boston area, and we're going to be answering the questions of, is it still a good time to buy, is it still a good time to sell, and how does our area compare to the whole nation as a whole? You know, we're seeing a lot of really alarming headlines with things that are starting to cool off and crash in different parts of the country. Is that happening here? Stay tuned and find out more. Okay, and so now for a quick overview of the market in the greater Boston area in general. We saw a lot of the similar trends continuing from what we saw in May. There was an overall decrease in inventory, but also the median sales prices were increasing. So interest rates are going up. Things aren't really slowing down in terms of the median purchase price in the area. So we're seeing that for single family homes, there's a 9.1% decrease in homes sold, and similar for condos, 15.4% decrease in sales volume. However, for all of these assets across the board, we're seeing that it's still super competitive out there. The median purchase price for single family homes has reached a new record. It's gone up 10.9% comparing June of 2022 to June of 2021. And similar for condos, it's a very similar story where it's 9.4% increase to the new records for condos. And for multifamily homes, those are increasing at a little bit of a slower pace, but still really similar behavior there. So if you're hoping now's the time I can finally get something on it as a great deal, I don't have to offer over asking price, we're not quite there yet. It'll be interesting to see how things evolve, but right now with mortgage rates, they haven't really crested over the 6% interest rate mark yet. And so there's still a ton of demand that's putting upward pressure on prices. So stay tuned, we're gonna do a little bit more of a deep dive as we go into this data a little further. In terms of top news, there's a ton going on in the macroeconomic level. So for instance, the June CPI, the inflation data came in for the month of June. June 2022 compared to 2021, the inflation went up 9.1%. So that's a little disconcerting because we're seeing that inflation is actually continuing to accelerate. Again, it was 8.6% in May. And even with the Federal Reserve raising the interest rates, things are still going up. So they're gonna have to get even more aggressive to get that under control. So that's something definitely to keep a lookout for. And so the Federal Reserve does have a meeting coming up. We're expecting that they're going to raise their rates 0.75 to 1% for this upcoming meeting. And as a hint for what they may do, the European Central Bank did meet this month already, and they already actually raised their rates 1%. So we'd expect to see a similar type of move from the Federal Reserve. And again, so right now we're in a really high inflation environment, and this is part of the reason that we're seeing all this housing appreciation. So if you're looking, remember the data that we saw for houses are hitting new highs, usually during times of high inflation periods, tangible assets are really great investments because they track and they're a hedge against inflation. So as the dollar is devalued and worth less, that means that assets are going to be worth more in the dollar amount, which is why owning housing is great. In terms of interest rates, so mortgage interest rates reached a high of 6.28%, which is a new one-year high for us. That was reached on June 14th, and since that high, it's kind of come down a little bit. It's still down around 5.7% for the month of June, and it's actually trending a little bit lower as well, and that's mostly on the fears that people think we may be going into a recession and that the Federal Reserve may not be raising interest rates as aggressively. I don't think that's going to be the case, but that seems to be what some people think in the market. And looking at the median selling price in the area for the greater Boston area, so we're seeing that, again, reaching new all-time highs pretty much every month that we've been making these videos. So for single-family homes, it's gone up 10.9%. It's now at an all-time high of $900,000 for a single-family home in the greater Boston area. And for condominiums, it's, again, a new high of 9.4%, and this has reached $700,000. So if you've been on the sidelines waiting for things to crash, you're like, oh, I've been reading the headlines and hearing the news, everyone's talking about this crash that's coming in housing. We have not seen that here. The Boston area is just super resilient. It's because there's a ton of people with really high-paying jobs. We've got the tech industry, lawyers, doctors, nurses, biopharmaceuticals. I mean, pretty much all sorts of industries that are really varied and really high-paying. So it's a really strong area in the greater Boston area, which is why we're continuing to see people that can pay these higher prices. So when you're thinking, who can be buying these things? A lot of people, way more people than you think, and that's why we're seeing the increasing median sales price every month that goes by, is because there's more people that want to get out there and they want to get their hands on a home before things go up even further. And so now let's take a little bit of a closer look deeper dive into some of the data. What we're going to see is that the things I want to highlight here is the sold to original price ratio. That's continuing to be really competitive out there. It's now 107.6% sold price to list price ratio. So that means that on average, people are putting 7.6% above the offer price for when they're buying homes. You're not going to be getting anything for under asking price. You're not going to find this diamond in the rough that only you find that no one else sees. You know, it's going to be really tough out there. And for sellers, now is still a good time for you to be putting your homes on the market. You know, I wouldn't want to wait around until the end of the summer. So you definitely want to be making moves quickly. Also, in terms of month supply of inventory, it's now at 1 month, which is, again, I mean, when we're looking at these, it was 0.8 months last month, or for June of 2021. Now it's 1 month. It's really essentially flat. I mean, we're really splitting hairs here. So it's, if you look, it's like, oh, it technically went up 25%. It's like, yeah, but in reality, that has no impact on the amount of inventory available. If there's anything out there, it gets scooped up instantly. We're still seeing the days to off market is really low. It's still really competitive out there. Here's the data you can see. Take a look. If there's anything else, if you want a deeper dive into specific towns, feel free to add something in the comments and I'd be glad to send that over to you. So if you're looking to buy a condominium, the good news is you do have a little bit of hope. It's still competitive out there. The sold to original price ratio is 103%. So you're going to have to go around 3% over asking price, but the good news is that's still a way better deal than buying a single family home. Single family homes, a lot of people are wanting to get into them right now. So if you're a home buyer and you're looking to how do I figure out how to get a piece of property for a little bit better of a deal, condos may be a place you're going to want to look. And we're seeing that the month supply of inventory is around the same as what it was. It's flat for the month of May of 2022, so it's 1.6 months of supply. Again, that is insanely low, just as a little barometer check. When there's like an equal buyer's market compared to seller's market, that's around 6 months supply, so it is still very heavily in the seller's market territory. In terms of my expectations for what I'm expecting to see over the course of the next month, I think buyer demand is going to continue to be really high through the end of the summer. I think for sellers, this is still a great opportunity for you is this summer. As we get into the fall and interest rates continue to rise and the demand starts to cool off a little bit, we may be potentially seeing a shift in industry that we're seeing then. But in terms of now through the summer, it's a great opportunity to still be buying and selling again. This is when we have the most inventory available for the entire year for buyers. And for sellers, this is generally when you get the highest price per square foot for the houses that you list. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.